Free will explained by an atheist. Hi, I'm Raz Pasha, and today I'm going to look at free will. A large number of people are aware that atheists don't believe in God. But what about the concept of the God within? Many people believe that there is something supernatural going on inside them. They think that they have libertarian free will. I'm actually thoroughgoing in my lack of a belief in God. You see, I am also without a belief in the soul, otherwise known as the God within. I'm going to show that we do not see any evidence of the supernatural at work in our decision making, and so we should conclude that there is no libertarian free will. The concept of free will is entangled with the religious idea that there is a religious purpose for life and the concept of judgment. In a world as it presents itself to us, that is, without libertarian free will, is there a justification for eternal punishment or reward? No, even eternal reward is not justified. Free will is also used in the defence of the problem of evil. So if we don't have supernatural free will, a large plank of many religions fail. However, when we talk of free will, we need to be specific as to the type we are referring to. 1. Legal free will. If someone is not pointing a gun at your head, you're said to be exercising free will. 2. Random free will. The sort of random free will we get from quantum mechanics, or you may think of it as throwing the dice every time you're going to make a decision or not make a decision. 3. Causal free will. The type we get in a predominantly deterministic universe, whereby our decisions are made according to our DNA and our life experiences. 4. Contracausal free will, or libertarian free will. Free will that isn't random yet not fully caused. This type of free will is thought to be due to the soul. In general, when philosophers talk about free will, they are specifically referring to contracausal libertarian free will. Under Newtonian and Einsteinian physics, the universe was said to be deterministic, and as such there was no free will. However, when quantum theory came along, we came up with the idea that there is a degree of freedom within the universe, in that not everything is caused. I guess we've all heard of the argument between Albert and Niels Bohr, when Albert said, "God does not play dice with the universe," and Niels responded, "Albert, stop telling God what to do." With quantum theory, the theoretical physicist Michio Kaku concluded that the universe does in fact have free will. But with this type of free will in the universe, God does not even know what's going to happen next. However, this type of random free will does not get us any closer to libertarian free will. Can you imagine driving down the street when all of a sudden some random element in the mind told you to drive on the wrong side of the road? I'd be pretty miffed if I had this type of free will. However, we certainly don't have this type of free will. That is not to say that there is not a certain degree of randomness in the world. Schrödinger's cat experiment is an example of how random events in the micro world can affect our macro world, but quantum theory does not seem to affect the decisions we make. Let's return to the deterministic universe model of free will. In this model, our lives pan out like a Hollywood movie. In this model, we are fully caused. We don't drive on the wrong side of the road because we know the consequence. If we rewound the tape of our lives and had to remake the decision of which side of the road to drive on, we'd make the same decision each and every time, and we'd be happy with that. It's the random free will that we don't want. By being fully caused, I mean that if we rewound the tape of our lives, it would replay the same each and every time, and all of our decisions would be based on our DNA and our life's experiences. As the fully caused model is deterministic, we can make predictions as to how the world should seem under this model. In the fully caused model, we would expect to find that Christian parents would tend to influence their children to become Christians. Muslim parents would tend to influence their children to become Muslims, etc. And furthermore, I'd say this is the world that we have. Let's consider another option, and that we're not fully caused, that there is a non-random free agent that affects our decision-making, but one which is not dependent on our conditioning, a world where the soul could independently tap into some universal truth beyond which we experience. If this were the case, and if one particular God was true, we'd expect it to affect the soul. For argument's sake, let's say it's the Christian God, then we'd expect to see Muslim parents giving birth to Christian children, even if they hadn't heard of Christianity. Remember here, I'm talking about contra-causal or libertarian free will. However, even when a person converts from one religion to the next, it only occurs after a person's life comes in contact with the other religion. Furthermore, conversions are bidirectional, indicating that the soul is not tapping into any ultimate truth. There's some ideas on free will. Personally, I favour causal free will with some random effects getting through, when they are neither here nor there. Suppose I wanted to wear a dark blue tie because it matched the colour of the suit. I reach into the cupboard, but some random event makes me reach a millimetre further and I pull out a blue and white striped tie. I'd quite likely wear it because even though it wasn't the tie I intended to wear, it meets the general requirements, especially if I was in a hurry. The question of free will is far from academic. It's an important question which has relevance to both the criminal system and social policy. If our free will is fully caused, then the criminal that ends up on a drugs or murdering someone is not ultimately responsible for their actions. You see, they didn't choose their DNA. Anyone else with their life's experiences and their DNA would have done the same. I'm not advocating a get-out-of-jail-free scheme, as the deterrent of jail forms part of the system of causation. If criminal behaviour is fully caused, then it actually empowers us to do something about it. If the criminal behaviour was not caused, then there would be nothing we could do. On the question of social policy, we have to resolve the question of whether the poor choose to be poor or not. When a natural disaster occurs, people tend to dig into their pockets to help those that are affected, because we see that these people are suffering and we recognise that it's not of their own making. However, if we are fully caused, then those that are naturally poor are also poor, but not of their own making. The consequence is that they are just as deserving as those that are poor due to a natural disaster. Again, it brings up the question of social engineering. If we can understand why they are poor, then we can do something about it. Causal free will may seem to be taking something away from us. However, even if we don't have true libertarian free will, we have the illusion of it. I still seem to be in charge of the decisions that I'm making, and that's all I'm really concerned about. The flip side is that causal free will empowers us to prevent crime and to socially engineer society. Now we come to an even more startling consequence. On what basis would an omniscient deity have for judging the actions of people? I'd say none, since we are primarily caused. Whilst we are responsible for our actions, if we are fully caused, ultimately we are not in the sense that we should be judged for them. A judgemental God is folly.